Set in an alternate timeline, the year is 2002. 7 years ago, in this world, Solid Snake infiltrated Outer Heaven, defeated Metal Gear TX-55, and was forced to kill his own father, Big Boss, at the culmination of battle.
The nightmares, they never go away, Snake. Once you've been on the battlefield, tasted the exhilaration, the tension, it all becomes a part of you once you've awakened the warrior within. It never sleeps again. You crave ever bigger tensions, ever bigger thrills. As a mercenary, I think you would have realized that by now. You care nothing for power, money, or even sex. The only thing that satisfies your cravings is war. All I've done is give you a place for it. I've given you a reason to live. Go ahead, as your former commander, and as your genetic father. My last command is that you release me.
I don't owe you any favors, and I'm not doing this for you. Never again.
Though many of the events of the past are the same, this reality's Big Boss never saw him acquire his phantom, and he perished in the resulting destruction.
Supreme victory!
This universe's Outer Heaven was built further north, in a different, fictitious nation known as Gindra, rather than the real country, South Africa. Though the government had discussed bestowing the title of Big Boss onto Solid Snake, he departed from Foxhound after 3 years without fanfare, to live a new life in Alaska before any such event ever took place. Therefore, he is often referred to as the legendary soldier. With Big Boss dead, the Zanzibar land incident never took place. Solid Snake has chosen to retire to a solitary lifestyle, due to the complex feelings he has towards his first mission as a Foxhound agent. He is kept busy to distract himself from the turmoil he feels, but never shows to the world. Now, Solid Snake, the legendary soldier, has been called upon once again to return to Outer Heaven one last time. He must face both his past and his future to overcome powerful new enemies.
Colonel, I'm not in Foxhound anymore.
You're saying you won't go. End it once and for all. It's all back there in Outer Heaven.
Your mission is to infiltrate the fortress Galuade, rescue the hostages, and neutralize Metal Gear before its assembly is complete.
Snake, it's me. Follow me.
Sorry, it's just that you're easier on the eyes than any other Delta Force operator I've met.
I'll check out the power plant.
The power plant?
It supplies all the power for this fortress, but there's something strange going on. The barracks where Dr. Harks is being held is to the north of there.
Solid Snake. It's a very special name to us, the Black Chamber. Outer Heaven is what you're remembered for, and Outer Heaven is where you'll be buried.
Hawk, why me?
I grew up in Australia with the people you call Aborigines. My adopted parents took me in, raised me against the elders' opposition. I tried to win their acceptance, but when my parents died, they turned me out. And everywhere I went, I was an outsider. This hook will carry my spirit home, yes.
Colonel, have you ever heard of a group called Black Chamber?
No, I've never heard of them.
Snake, leave the plant to Jenner and head for the barracks.
James Harks, the chief of Metal Gear Development, is held somewhere in here. Find him. I see a conveyor belt. Must be for cargo transport. Snake, why don't you do your usual thing and pretend to be a piece of luggage?
Snake, there's a fork in the conveyor belt. The machine is automatically sorting cargo according to some system. Take a good look at the device.
Snake, that's a conveyor belt used in transporting food and supplies for the barracks. It's fully automated and seems to move cargo without human input. Normally it won't take passengers, but you may be able to fool the machine into letting you take a ride. The conveyor belt seems to sort cargo destinations automatically. If you take a closer look, you might be able to find out how it's doing it.
Dr. James Harks, the engineer who designed Metal Gear, is being held somewhere in that building. Rescue him and get as much information about Metal Gear out of him as possible.
You rang, Snake? Ever heard of this? Dr. Cobblethorne says...
Mei Ling, you're...
Never mind me. Tell me about yourself.
Me?
Like why you're back in combat. I'd heard that you'd given up the military.
Did the Colonel tell you that?
Huh? And other things too.
Like what?
Like the bandana underwear and the barbecued bugs and...
That stuff too? That blabbermouth.
So, why did you come back?
I had something to finish and decided to stop running away. That's all.
And after that?
After...
When it's finished, what are you going to do?
I haven't thought about it. As long as the score is settled. That's all I care about.
Need anything? Eleanor Roosevelt claimed that you gain courage in every experience in which you stop to look fear in the face. Real courage is hard to find. Snake, have you looked fear in the face? Need anything? Caution is the mother of safety. That's an Italian proverb. Even when you're used to the game. Don't forget to keep an eye on your surroundings. Snake, do you copy? Once a thief, always a thief. Your equipment is all, borrowed locally and it can't be helped this time. But, not going to keep up the habit once you're back home, are you? What's up, Snake? Cargo Chi's motto was a burning heart and a cool head. Even when you're intent on something, don't lose your perspective. You rang, Snake? Don't push yourself too hard. Need anything? Opportunities that we're in, there's no great time. Hippocrates' words. Never miss a chance when you see one. Snake, do you copy? You know Shakespeare wrote that. The fool doth think he is wise, but the wise man knows himself to be a fool. What's your take on yourself, Snake? Need anything? Einstein said, I never think of the future, it comes soon enough. Do you think about it, Snake?
Concentration is a key factor in survival. If you feel fatigue setting in, take a break from the game. Don't waste time worrying about whether you can or can't. In war, you either do or die. Don't count on luck. The only thing you can count on is your own skills. That's how I've survived. Stamina's important. If it goes down, so does your judgment. If the batteries are running low, you'd better exchange them early. Don't panic. If you do, even a small situation will get too big to handle. Experience makes you wiser, but sometimes it makes you trip up badly too. You've got to have the right form when you fire a weapon. Accuracy, sustainability, and all depends on that. Find the form that suits you and don't play in uncomfortable positions. Making unnecessary noise can be lethal in war. Not just to yourself, but to your entire unit. Jack down the volume or use headphones in non-private space. When people have something they care about, some become strong and others weak because of it. Which one do you think you are?
Oh, what about you? You got anything you care about?
Guess there was my kid brother.
Was.
He's dead now. Can't figure out whether that made me feel stronger or weaker.
Like in most African states, Gindra is an ethnically diverse nation. Since each group has its own language, there's a large number of languages in use within the national border. On the other hand, the official language is French, so you shouldn't have any trouble communicating your intentions, as long as you brush up on your language skills. Gindra's total export for the last fiscal year was 55 billion CFA francs. Major export items include diamonds, gold, and rare metals such as uranium, manganese, and nickel, and these were destined mainly for France, the Netherlands, Belgium, Luxembourg, and the United States. But you won't find Gindra's true main export listed on any official document. Drugs. It's now common knowledge that Gindra is a major producer of narcotics. GLF's chief source of income is drugs, too. Gindra's total import for the last fiscal year was 95 billion CFA francs. Mostly machinery, medicinal supplies, and food products from the US, France, Japan, and Germany. At the present, there's virtually no domestic production of machinery, and therefore, there is an almost total dependence on imports. Gindra is an inland state, over 1,000 kilometers away from the nearest coast. Most of the country's landmass is a plateau around 600 to 700 meters above sea level, but there are mountainous regions consisting of ranges that include mountains in the 1-kilometer class. Your present location, the site of Galuade, is in one of those. The total population of Gindra is approximately 5 million. Around 45% of that number is concentrated in the cities. The mountains and the desert regions are almost completely undeveloped. A car is an absolute necessity in Gindra. If you plan to settle there, buy a car and make it a new one. A lot of times, there won't be any replacement parts to be found for older cars.
McBride, I have no earthly intention of moving here.
Snake, I took the liberty of looking up Harks records. James Harks, age 18. Considered a child prodigy from an early age, received his PhD from Carnegie Mellon University at age 16. Later recruited by Ramdyne Systems, a DoD contractor, and headed the Metal Gear development in cooperation with the U.S. Army. Also known as Jimmy the Wizard. He's already accepted as one of the foremost experts in the field of robotics, but here are some of his subordinates' comments regarding him. Quote, "I will not tolerate being asked to humor a child's whim constantly." Unquote. Quote, "He certainly knows what he's doing. But we'd all be happier if he could do something about that stubborn streak." Unquote. Quote, "Spoiled rotten." Unquote. Quote, "I don't care about anything else, but could he please shut the bathroom door when he has to go?" Unquote. Seems a fun sort of guy.
Dr. Harks is held on the first floor of the barracks you're in, Snake. Get him out quickly.
Approximately 50% of the Gindran population subscribe to the indigenous faith. Other religions rank in at 20% for the Muslims and 15% each for Catholics and Protestants. The religious makeup is as complex as the ethnic stratification, and differences in faith certainly contribute to the ethnic conflicts.
trouble getting comfortable. Inside a red cardboard box. On a conveyor belt.
Stun grenades will knock out the enemy. Stun grenades are also called flashbangs, or sound and flash grenades, and produce an intense flash of light and deafening sound. A high-speed combustion of mercury, fulminate, and magnesium results in the sudden release of an extremely bright light. equal to 1.5 million to 2 million candles, and a loud bang somewhere between 150 to 200 decibels. There are no explosive fragments to cause physical injuries, but the light and the sound render the target unconscious. This weapon is purely for stunning, not inflicting damage on the enemy. Don't forget that. You've put on your thermal goggles. Every object gives off heat, and the thermal goggles detect that radiated heat and produce a visual representation. They map the distribution of the infrared wavelength with quantum sensors. Using detection elements such as cadmium telluride. It functions even in absolute darkness. But remember that it isn't always easy to distinguish different shapes with the goggles on.
Hey. You don't look like one of those goons. Get me out of here. Or do you want me to yell for the guard?
You a hostage?
Yeah, they're like complete losers. At first I got to do whatever I wanted. Then once Metal Gear neared completion, I got thrown into this dump.
You're James Harks.
You can call me Jimmy. If you're gonna get me out of here.
They let a kid lead the Metal Gear development?
Oh yeah? I may be half your age, but I'm twice as smart as you, buddy.
I'm not that old.
Really? You look it, man. Haggard, weathered, leathery, whatever. Who are you, anyway?
Does it matter? I'm the guy sent to get you and destroy Metal Gear. And that's all you need to know.
Yeah, okay, whatever, Lone Ranger. You with the U.S. military.
I'm not with any military.
What then?
Just a misfit.
What the hell kind of answer is that? Who cares, as long as you get me out? Come on, I'm sick of this shithole of a place.
There's no way past these bars. Any other way into this room?
No, but...
But what?
I tapped on the walls, and the east one sounds different. It may be thinner than the other ones.
The east wall, huh? Okay, I'll get a hold of some explosives and try blowing through it.
Got yourself some C4 explosives, eh? C4s are high-yield plastic explosives that can go through walls on the thin side like cookie dough. Use the B button to set, and detonate with the A button. But you'd better not stick around when this stuff blows. C4s are the standard issue plastic explosives for the Brits, the US, and other major armed forces. The color is white with clay-like texture, and it consists of an extremely stable chemical composition of 91% RDX and 9% inert plasticizer. In fact, it won't detonate even if it's thrown into fire. When it does go off, it has a detonating velocity of approximately 26,400 FPS with a relative effectiveness of 1.34. One of the better explosives around.
So the east wall of Dr. Harks' cell seems weaker. Why don't you try blasting through with some explosives? There should be C4 explosives on the first floor somewhere.
Dude, what are you doing?
Snake, get Dr. Harks out of there. The east wall of his cell seems to be thinner. Blast through it with C4 explosives.
That took a while. Are you really as great as you say you are?
Rank. Terrible.
Next time on Metal Gear, Ghost Solid Babylon, Deluxe European Edition. Snake is deemed worthy by the gods and wields the power of Thor.
While wide, you can execute the wall by pressing the call button. The short voice listeners legit, and if you won't, just wait, you can send the enemy flying. Flying. Flying.
I can't believe that someone who has committed all those twisted acts in the woman's bathroom could make it this far. This is the end of the world.
Go away!
Don't you have anything else to do with your time? I'm not home right now. Please leave a message after the beep.
Beep.